The morning sun spilled through the tall glass windows of the Redwood corporate tower, but inside the dim supply room on the 15th floor, the world felt frozen in shadow. Arya Salas pushed her cleaning cart forward, humming softly the way she always did to keep herself steady through long shifts. She did not expect to find anyone in that forgotten little room, tucked behind unused storage boxes. Yet when she stepped in, her breath caught in her throat. There, sitting on the cold floor with his head buried in his hands, was a man trembling with silent sobs, dressed in an expensive suit, tie loosened like he'd struggled with his own breathing. She almost turned back, thinking she'd intruded on a private moment, but something about the way he shook made her pause. She didn't know him. She didn't know that the man crying in the dark had once signed a paper that cost her the job she desperately needed. She didn't know he was one of the city's most powerful CEOs. She only knew he looked like a soul quietly breaking. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes of Kindness. Your support helps bring such emotional stories to life. Arya stepped carefully toward the man, unsure whether to speak or remain silent. The tower around her was filled with polished marble floors, clean lines, and hurried footsteps of people far more important than she felt. But right now, it was just her and a stranger whose pain filled the air heavier than the dust she wiped each day. She set her cart aside and spoke gently, her voice barely above a whisper, asking if he was okay. The man lifted his face slowly, revealing red eyes and a look of someone who had been fighting battles no one else could see. He apologized for taking up space, as though he had no right to suffer in front of another human, and tried to wipe away his tears before they could be noticed. His name, he told her quietly, was Lucian Harad. Arya didn't react. The name meant nothing to her. She had never cared about office politics or corporate hierarchies. She cared about keeping her daughter safe, keeping their tiny apartment warm, and keeping her pride intact even when life felt like it was crushing her. Lucian didn't explain much at first. He simply said he had lost someone important. For a moment, Arya assumed heartbreak or family conflict, but when he spoke again, his voice shattered into fragments he could barely hold together. He confessed that his younger brother, the only family he had left, had passed away that morning after a long fight with a disease Lucian blamed himself for not paying enough attention to. He had been so focused on climbing higher, earning more, expanding the company, and securing titles that meant nothing now. While he was signing contracts, his brother was signing out of life. Lucian said he didn't know where else to go. Every room in that building reminded him of the decisions he made, decisions that cost him time he could never buy back. The weight of regret had become a chain dragging him to the floor. Arya listened quietly, her heart growing heavy. She knew grief. She knew loss. She knew what it felt like to be unseen until life forced your pain into the open. But she also knew compassion was something you gave even when your own world was falling apart. So she sat beside him on the floor, folding her hands in her lap, telling him gently that regret only deepened when carried alone. She spoke about the value of presence, how even in silence, love remained alive. Something in her words softened Lucian's tightly wound pain, the kind no money or prestige could numb. For the first time in a long while, someone spoke to him not as a CEO but as a human being. Hours passed unnoticed. Eventually, Lucian thanked her, giving her a look of gratitude so sincere it felt like a quiet prayer. When Arya left the room, she assumed she would never see him again. She returned to her routine, scrubbing office floors and emptying bins, her mind drifting to her responsibilities, rent due soon, medicine her daughter needed, and extra shifts she had been denied because she no longer worked full-time. She didn't know that Lucian, having collected himself, watched her leave with a lingering realization. Her kindness felt like a lifeline someone had thrown to him in the storm. And for reasons he didn't yet fully understand, he followed her down the hallway, wanting to know who she was. When he saw her badge identifying her as a temporary hire, something cold twisted inside his stomach. He recognized her last name from a stack of papers he had signed months ago. A downsizing order. A name he had unknowingly pushed off the payroll. The next morning, Arya arrived expecting her usual shift, but instead she was summoned to the executive office. Fear shot through her. She thought she might lose the little job she had left. But when she stepped inside, she saw Lucian sitting behind the large wooden desk, suit crisp, mask of authority restored. He greeted her with a softness she hadn't expected, and then he confessed the truth. He told her he was the CEO who had authorized the termination of her full-time position. Arya froze, a sting of betrayal cutting deep. Yet before she could speak, Lucian apologized with a sincerity she couldn't dismiss. He said he hadn't known her story then, hadn't taken the time to understand the people behind the numbers he signed away. But now he did. And he wanted to make things right. He offered her not only her job back but a permanent position with better pay, benefits, and hours. More than that, he asked her to help him create a program within the company that would protect workers like her from sudden layoffs without support. Arya was stunned. She didn't know how to feel. Part of her wanted to walk away, to let him feel the sting of guilt he deserved. But another part, the part grounded in kindness and hope, knew that change was possible only when someone reached back across the divide. So she accepted. Over the following months, the two formed an unlikely bond. Not a romantic one, but something deeper, mutual respect forged through vulnerability, growth, and second chances. Lucian visited the workers' floors often, listening, learning, understanding the world he had been too far removed from. Arya became a guiding voice, her strength reminding him of the humanity buried beneath his success. And as the days turned into weeks, Lucian gradually rose from the grief that had pinned him down. He chose to live differently. He chose to lead differently.